Welcome back to another exciting episode on the show. As you guys know, I only bring the best of guests to my show. Today, we have a very special guest, Louis Swartz. Louis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you, mate.
All right, Louis, I would like you to introduce yourself to my audience.
My name's Louis Swart. I'm from a company, Ironbridge, and I've been in business for 35 years now. Had several multi-million-dollar businesses, which, I remember selling a business at when I was 30 for 5 million. And I remember sitting there and thinking, how come my previous businesses I hadn't been able to sell? And I remember having a plumbing business when I was 25. I had 10 plumbers. I went to sell it. And the broker said to me, who does all the quality control? And I said, I do it. Who does all the accounting? I do it. And every question he asked me, I said, I do it. And he pretty much said to me, Louis, your business is worth nothing. And I can tell you it was devastating because I was so excited about my business and I thought it was going to be really worth, a lot of money. But because I did everything, it was actually worth nothing. And so that taught me a really valuable lesson. And so fast forward from there, 5 years, I learned how to delegate completely. And so that's what I've been teaching people to do for the last sort of 30 years. I've been teaching them how to delegate. And you can either delegate to staff in the Philippines or to, staff in other countries or to AI.
All right, thank you so much. I have some questions here for you, and I would like us to look into them. Okay, so talk about delegate, elevate, and accelerate. What is the biggest mistakes coaches make that keeps them stuck doing everything themselves?
Thinking that they need to do it all themselves. That is literally the biggest mistake. And people think, 82% of business coaches, 82% go out of business within the first 2 years. So if you think about that, 10 people start, 8 of them actually fail. That's a really, really shocking statistic. And those coaches are just trying to help other people, but just because you want to help somebody doesn't mean that there's financial gain in that. And so I know from my own personal perspective, it's just because you're helping somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be remunerated for it. Lots of times it costs you to help other people. And so, with coaches, they actually feel like they've got to do it all themselves. They feel like, if they want something done right, they've got to do it themselves. Or they feel like they can't trust somebody else to do the work. Or they feel like somebody else won't do it as good as what they do. Or they feel like they'll lose control if they allow somebody else to do it. So those are the things why people don't actually do this. That's some of the reasons why people, carry on doing everything themselves, and then they actually just get burnt out.
All right, thank you so much. So moving on, what's what's the belief you once held strongly that you have completely changed your mind about, and what caused that shift?
I think one of the beliefs was that, nobody could do anything as good as what I could. And I genuinely believed that. I did everything myself. And then I spoke to a mentor, and he said to me, Louis, do you think you could get somebody to do this task at 60% as well as what you do? And you'd have to be pretty egotistical to think that somebody couldn't do it at 60% of the rate that you could. And so I said, yeah, I think somebody could do 60%. And he said, well, even if they only do 60%, if you hire one person, you can now accomplish 160%. And if you hire a second person, you can now accomplish 220%. And that really stuck with me, whereas it's just a numbers game. We all go out there and we expect somebody to do 100% the same as what we do, but that doesn't work. So if somebody can do 60%, and you just got to get a whole lot of those 60% people, and suddenly the amount that you can do is incredible.
Can you walk us through a moment when things didn't go according to plan and how that reshaped your approach moving forward?
Sorry, just tell me, when things didn't go according to plan, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Look, I think when you're in business, in all honesty, things don't go according to plan a lot of times. Okay. That's just what happens. So we plan for things to stay the same, literally. Most of us think that when we go into business, we're gonna, if we've got a system or we've got something that's working, it's gonna be working forever. And that's completely not true. So something that works today may not work tomorrow or the next day. And so, for me personally, I went in and, I did virtual assistants, and I thought everybody's going to want a virtual assistant, staff in the Philippines. And then AI came along, and it was a real wake up call, because AI could do so much of the stuff that a virtual assistant could do. And so, my business actually went down for a little bit. And then I realized that, or I needed to get all my virtual assistants trained in AI so that they would be more valuable to the clients. And so being able to do that actually allowed us to start being able to get virtual assistants out into the marketplace again. But now they were AI trained.
So thank you so much, Luis. Uh, okay, so what's a decision that you made that looked wrong to others at the time that proved right later?
Decision that I made that looked wrong at the time. Well, I had a labor hire business, and I was hiring. I wanted to hire staff from offshore, and there was major. Nobody thought it was a good idea, because I was going to be taking jobs out of the country, and I wasn't going to be, I was going to be giving work away, and but I persisted with that, and what happened slowly was that the people in the Philippines were like really good. And so we ended up hiring one person, and then we ended up hiring two people. And eventually we had 18 people, and it literally saved us $45,000 a month. So that was a decision that, I thought it was a good decision. Everybody else thought it was a bad decision. But I actually had to just really stick to my guns and literally go through with it and take the risk. And fortunately, the risk paid off.
Right. Thank you so much. So, what's the problem that you're obsessed with solving right now, and why does it matter to you personally?
One of the things that I'm obsessing with at the moment is literally AI. How do we use AI better? Because I just think AI is a tool, but how do I use that tool even better? And if we can learn how to use AI really, really well, then I can get my virtual assistants to use AI, and I can train them, and I can, equip them with all the tools that they need. And then I can really put them into businesses where, business owners will get 2 or 3 times the productivity that they get from a person now, purely because these people will be AI powered. So they'll be able to just accomplish much more than normal.
Okay, so can you tell us what has influenced your thinking the most in the past few years? And how has that changed your direction?
Sorry, what was the what?
Or what has influenced your thinking in the past few years? And how has it changed your direction?
I think there's been a lot of different things. When you're growing a business, you actually learn a whole lot of new things that you hadn't even thought of before. You start coming across issues like cash flow because you're growing too fast. And that's something you don't think about. You don't think about, you starting to grow faster and faster, and you don't imagine that you're going to run out of money because, you're growing. So you should actually have more money, but you don't. You actually run into all sorts of cash flow issues. So those kind of things happen. And personally, I think that having good mentors around you is really where the difference is going to come, because good mentors have actually been there before and they've actually experienced what you are going to be coming up against. And so they can compress time. A good mentor can actually help you to avoid a really costly mistake. Because if you don't have a mentor, sometimes people say to me, "Oh, I don't want to pay for a coach. I don't want to pay for a coach because it's too expensive." And the reality is that you pay no matter what. You either pay for a coach or you pay in time. So you're paying time lost. You lose time. If you don't have a coach, you're going to lose time trying to do it yourself. And so it's really just working out which of those two you want. And so for me, it was just trying to surround myself with the right people, surround myself with people that were doing the things that I wanted to do, so that, from their example, I could actually be better.
Okay, thank you so much. Surround yourself with the right people or get a coach. Okay. So, can you describe a time you had to unlearn something to move forward?
Definitely. The expression you have to, if you want something done right, you need to do it yourself. Bang. You need to 100% unlearn that as quickly as possible, because if you do everything yourself, okay, you might feel that it's done right, but you're going to completely stunt how much you can do. You completely limit yourself in the amount that you can actually do, in the amount that you can earn, in the amount of time that you've got to left over to spend with your family and your friends. So that's one thing you want to unlearn as quickly as you can. If you want something done right, you need to give it to the right person. Is a much better way to look at that than saying, if you want something not done right, you need to do it yourself. And I know this from personal experience. I've been in a business where I was like, I was the one who did everything. And what that did is it just burns you out. Burns you out because you go all the way from being the person who's, doing the cleaning, to the person who's doing the stock, to the person who's doing the HR, to the person who's doing the accounts. And you literally can't cover all those jobs and have a laugh. And so it definitely burns you out trying to accomplish too many things. So that's one thing I definitely would try and unlearn.
All right, Alois. So, what do you think people consistently misunderstand about your work or your journey?
I think a lot of times people just see the good things that happen to you. So they don't see all the hard work. They don't see when you've done, if you've done 14-hour days. Nobody notices that. And then when you succeed, everybody says, wow, you were so lucky. You were so lucky. And they don't give any acknowledgement to the work that you've done to be able to get there. And I can't remember who it was, but one of my favorite quotes was, "The harder I work, the luckier I get." And literally, that's something that people don't see. It's all that work that we're doing in the background when people aren't watching us. That's really the work that's going to help you to grow faster than the average person.
Okay, thank you so much, Louis. So, if this conversation reached someone exactly where you were 5 years ago, what would you want them to hear?
that literally you need to work out what stuff is worth your time. So what are high value tasks? What tasks should you be doing? What tasks are you going to bring in money with? So work out what your time's worth. And the easiest way to work out what your time's worth is to take however much you want to earn and divide it by 2,000. And the 2,000 figure comes from 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year gives you 2,000. So let's say you want to earn 100,000. You divide it by 2,000 hours, and that'll give you a figure of $50. Now, most of us don't want to work 40 hours and 50 weeks a year. So if you double that number, you get to a figure of $100 an hour. And that's really what your time's worth. Your time is worth $100 an hour. So when you're looking at stuff, say, would I pay somebody $100 an hour to do this? And generally, you're going to find you'd go, there's no way I'd pay somebody $100 an hour to do it, and then you shouldn't be doing it. So you should be getting somebody else to do that. And then in the meantime, you should be looking for other jobs that you can do where you will earn at least $100 an hour.
All right, thank you so much, Louis. So, if there is one message you wish listeners will take away from this entire conversation, what would you want that to be?
Well, the one lesson that I would want everybody to be is, learn how to delegate, learn how to get people to help you, either people or AI. So we're moving into an era now where we can't just do everything ourselves anymore. We really need to work out how can we get AI to help us, or how can we get humans to help us, and or how can we get humans that are using AI to help us, and that's going to make the difference between us being, one of those two people that survive, or one of the 8 people that don't survive out of every 10 business owners. So really learn how to delegate, work out what your high and low value tasks are, and then from there, you know what you get to get somebody else to do.
All right, Luis, thank you so much. This has been a very exciting episode. Thank you so much for sharing with us your story and your journey. Your journey is an inspiration to a lot of people and your story as well. And I think a lot of people can pick something from here and move forward with it. So, for those who would like to connect with you and learn more about your work, how can they do that?
They can go to my website, louisswart.com. So it's LOUIS, like Louis Vuitton, LOUIS, and Swart, SWART.com. And you can find out about my new book that I've released there. You can find free giveaways. There's a whole lot of really cool stuff for free there. So go to louisswart.com and literally reach out and let's have a conversation.
All right, thank you so much, Luis. Thank you to all my audience for tuning into here. You guys are the real MVP. Do have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you, Luis. Bye, guys.
No worries.